Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Coffee Connections. I'm your host, Seth Weiner, and I am your Rocktioneer. Wow, do you know what today is? Today is National Coffee Day. Yes, National Coffee Day. And we're doing a Coffee Connections. How appropriate is it? If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And for a back catalog of all of our Coffee Connections, as you're going to be caffeinated today and you got time, they're all about 30 minutes long. You go to yourrocktioneer.com right there at the bottom, Coffee Connections, and you can see all of our guests. This is episode 12. We got a lot more coming to you all. So let's jump into it, shall we? Today, our guest is actually an old friend of mine, Matt Weiss. That's right, Matt Weiss he is with Center for Civic Innovation. He's the Senior Director of Operations. He's an Atlanta native. So yes, ATL means a lot to him. And the Center for Civic Innovation is a nonprofit organization that elevates outcomes-driven and community-centered solutions that address inequality in Atlanta. They conduct research. They host educational public programs. They invest in the community solutions led by local leaders and advocates, and are advocates for policy change with the belief that community needs and voices must be at the center of all public decision making. Now, before his time with CCI, Matt was a managing partner of the A3C Festival and Conference, a big hip hop conference here, and he helped them grow into one of the largest cultural events in the country. He's also a musician with a history of Atlanta music. But let me go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Matt Weiss to the show. Matt, hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Well, it's my pleasure, but it's also, you're here because of the Fox Theater. I interviewed Allie a couple weeks ago, and she suggested you and your organization.
Well, Allie's good people and the Fox Theater organization. Fox Theater Institute is a great organization, so proud to be on the list.
Yeah, well, I saw you have a coffee mug. Are you a coffee drinker?
Of course. This is this is the extra cup of coffee I don't need that I have throughout the whole day. So that's just how it works. Too much coffee.
What's the deal with the mug? Is there a story behind that mug?
These are my least favorite politicians. We've got I don't know if you can see that there, but I've got Michelle Bachmann. We've got Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell. It just reminds me to keep active every morning and scares me into waking up.
Okay. All right. Coffee. Do you like it hot or cold?
Hot, always.
Do you like it French press or drip?
Neither. I have a Jura Capresso, so I'm a super coffee nerd. I've got the one that makes grinds the beans and disposes of the beans and the whole thing. Very into my coffee.
Okay, dark roast or light roast or
light to medium. That's where all the caffeine is.
Ah, all right. Well, I got to tell you, every week I talk about this and everyone says very few people say French press, but I want to share something with everyone today, as I said I would. This is the French press I've been talking about. This guy here, I'm not trying to sell it on Amazon. It just happens to be there. It's this portable French press. It makes the most perfect cup of coffee. It's simple to use. Any rate, I keep saying I'm going to share it. So I've shared it, and now it's time for you, sir, to share more information about the Center for Civic Innovation. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, sir.
Sure. Well, you gave our mission statement in the intro, which is great. The work that we do is about helping grassroots solutions in Atlanta. So a main portion of our work is through our fellowship program, which we have applications open today, and will be open through the end of the weekend till October 4th, where we are accepting applications for people who are trying to solve problems inside of their communities. We believe at the Center for Civic Innovation that the best solutions are from the neighborhoods themselves. Too many times NGOs and different organizations come in and they prescribe solutions to neighborhoods and communities that aren't built for them, and they don't get used. They're wasted, and the gap becomes bigger. So we truly believe that through support, investment, education, that we can help build better solutions in Atlanta from the neighborhood point. And then in addition to that, we do civic engagement work. So a lot of what we do is through educational pieces, such as our conversations just like this that we have on a weekly basis, where we're talking to leaders and community builders and different organizations across Atlanta who are focused and doing the work. And then in addition to that, we have a research and data arm where we're looking at the way that Atlanta funds its organizations, how philanthropy works, how Atlanta's neighborhoods communicate through their NPU systems. There's just a lot of moving pieces over here at CCI, but we're a group of strong, really dedicated people who, quite frankly, give a shit, and we want to see Atlanta grow and grow in the right way and grow with the right people. Wow, grow with the right people at the table, not just the white people. I should say that.
That's all right. Yeah. So, how many people are part of the organization?
We're about 10 deep. But that doesn't include, the 82 odd fellows that are part of our alumni in our community, or the vast network of partners that we work with to execute a lot of these programs that we're doing. So there's 10 dedicated individuals that bleed and sweat and cry over this work all the time, but we're supported by a vast network of really great people in Atlanta.
Right. Now, what about someone that's watching that might say, I've never heard of you all. How may they have heard of you without even realizing it?
Sure. So I think for the general public, a lot of what we did that got everybody's attention was around the Atlanta's mayoral election a couple of years ago, which would have been 4 years ago next year, where we enacted a new campaign called our Vote Local Initiative, or Vote ATL, excuse me. And through that program, we had conversations with every single person who ran for mayor in Atlanta. That was a lot of jokers. And we worked really hard to make sure people didn't really have information about where to register. Of course, that's important. But we wanted to make sure people understood what these people do for a living. What does the mayor do? What does our city council do for a living? What is their scope of work? Who do they report to? Who does APS report to? There's a lot of misunderstanding around the way civics works, especially in Atlanta. So we saw that gap, and we try to fill that gap, and we'll continue to do that next year as we go into the next mayoral race, however that looks. But we're focused on making sure people understand how their local policy is made and how they can affect that. It's so important.
Mm-hmm. And as the world changed on us and paused and pivoted and everything else, has your organization continued pretty much the same, or what are some of the biggest changes that you guys have had?
We're the Center for Civic Innovation without a center. We have been remote since March 13th, just like everybody else, and such a large part of our way we do work is by convening people. We have not been able to convene people since then. So we've had to pivot in a major way. Now, I will say the word pivot is kind of the free bingo square of the COVID crisis when it comes to the way businesses work. So the way that we did it is we just like everybody else, we transitioned everything online. Our team began working remotely. We had to instill all, from the back end, the boring logistics stuff, just had to instill a lot of new processes and a lot of new ways to communicate to each other and our community. And so we've had a lot of success doing that, actually. We've launched 2 new programs, one called the Community Conversation, where we talk to a different leader in the community space and in the nonprofit space who just really are boots on the ground doing it. And then we launched another event called Social Studies, which we have one coming up this Friday at 9 a.m., shameless plug, where we delve deep into a topic. So this last month, we did Neighborhood Power. We talked to some key NPU leaders and people in the government about how neighborhoods communicate for policymakers. And so this month we're looking at philanthropy, and we, starting in April, we started to do a real deep dive in research on, how Atlanta's philanthropic community is reacting to the COVID crisis. And so we looked at a lot of the major organizations. We took the findings, and we released a report, we will be releasing a report on Friday, where we have outlined, how that money was spent and some of the gaps that we saw in that. In addition to that, we're having a conversation on Friday with a lot of the philanthropic leaders in Atlanta to go deeper into that story. It's a
Now,
real interesting time.
without taking away from Friday, I know, I want they can find more information at civicatlanta.org. I'm going to keep that up there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a little bit of what you discovered, though? Just
So
a little nugget?
I mean, it's nothing that you wouldn't be surprised. I think that 21% of all COVID-19 relief grants were given to organizations founded by Black women, but they have only received 10% of the overall funding. When you're talking about a city, let me repeat that again. 10% of overall funding went to Black women-led organizations. That is not reflective of the population of the city. If you go to Civic Atlanta /philanthropy, civicatlanta.org/philanthropy, you can see a lot of the data that we've released already. We put some infographics together. We've kind of outlined some of the main top line findings that we've put out there. And then on Friday, we're releasing a much more detailed report that's going to go into the weeds on a lot of these subjects. And we hope that organizations and different cities look at this information and make changes, right? Like we're not doing this to slap people's hands and say you're bad. What we're doing is we want funding, and we want people who are funding in Atlanta to be more representative of the people that they're funding. It's fair and simple.
It makes sense. So you open this up and you expose it, and not even like it's not a aha, look at this. It's just, hey, this is what it is. How do you propose the change to come through that, though?
Yeah, that's interesting. I can only speak from my personal experience on this. I think there's a number of ways you can look at it. But I think first and foremost, Black women need a seat at the table. It's simple. As a white man, I'm able, just through relationships, to open doors that Black women just aren't able to get through. And it's fucked up and it's bullshit. And it needs to be called out for what it is. So until Black women and Black men in Atlanta specifically, where we have 52% of the population are Black, that we have to change the game on the way they have access to these avenues of funding. Those opportunity gaps are huge. And until we start talking about it and exposing it and being okay with the fact that it exists, but not being okay with that being the status quo is important. And again, I think, what we're learning in this time, whatever you want to call it, where, you've got a bunch of performative wokeness going on one side, and you've got everybody just trying to figure out, how to deal with, your race versus their race and everything. It's like, you have to make space for people. And so what I'm trying to get at is that the grace period for not making space for individuals and not creating equitable spaces is over. So it's not about shaming people for what they've done in the past. It's about shaming them for what they're not going to do in the future. And it's holding people accountable for that. That's the fastest and easiest way to change it.
Yeah. Also through these programs, like the one you just mentioned, this, excuse me for a second, the fellowship program.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like that's a one way to really get it going as well.
Sure. Just to talk about that for a second, it's a 6-month program that we've been offering for about 5 years, where we look for grassroots leaders, entrepreneurs, and movement builders. We look for them, the people that have the brilliant ideas that address social and economic inequality in their own communities, but don't have the resources to support or achieve those. We want to find those ideas. We want to give them the tools, give them the support they need, investment when necessary, and let them test their solution and prove that it works. Like we truly believe we want to be the department of failure. We want people to come to us with just an idea, and we help them along the way of testing it, improving it, and then either scrapping it, because let's face it, not every idea works, or throwing some gas on that fire and letting it really, really take flight, really burn bright. And it's amazing work. We've graduated about 82 organizations through the fellowship program so far. Like I mentioned earlier, we've got an application open right now only through Sunday. If you got just the smallest idea, or you like, wouldn't it be cool if, or whatever, I really implore you to go to our website and check it out. We also have a free info session, which at 5:30 this afternoon on Zoom, where you can ask questions and find out, maybe are you a good fit for this program? Maybe you're not. What do you need to do to apply? Whatever you want. Just if you're at all curious, I would, bare minimum, go check out our website. The application's right there, or check out the info session if you want more. But this is the fuel. This is what keeps us going, man. Is these leaders, and we want to try to, absorb as much of their struggle as we can, but give them the tool to rise above whatever those struggles are. And yeah, it's great work, man. We love it.
Is there an age? I mean, do you have to be a certain age, or it's just?
I don't want to. I believe you have to be 18. I should know.
Okay, but it's but it's not like a cutoff at like 24 or something.
No. We welcome the largest diversity. Any age, any creed, whatever. Right. Like for us, it's just important that you're working in Atlanta, that you're solving a problem in Atlanta. That's really, we're just micro focused on the city.
Now you said throwing money to the projects, right? Where do you get the money to do that? I mean, I know you're a very wealthy guy, right?
Yeah, I got, how I roll. My 2008 Honda Accord with the messed up bumper is balling. We work with a lot of great corporate partners, a lot of philanthropic partners to fund these organizations. We currently have a number of relationships with organizations who want to make micro grants into organizations like this and look to us to be that support system for them. So we're very fortunate to have a lot of great partners. And a lot of the times what we're doing is we're trying to pull in that funding for them to, support our program, to support the tools that we give them, but also, provide additional grant funding and to offset the cost of classes and whatever opportunities they're missing out of for taking a part in the program. We want to make sure that they're whole and good for that participation. And then, the goal is to continue to invest in these organizations as their impact grows. We really want to see investment, the same kind of investment we see in the startup sector. We want to see that in the social sector, and we want to see it. We really want to see that really address and make sure that impact plays into the return on investment. It doesn't always have to be capital, because so much capital. I mean, there's so many ways you can look at it, but we truly believe that impact is number one.
Are you finding yourself to be a networker of an organization, so that someone has like an innovator comes in, they have an idea, and you're like, that's really great, and you've got all this access to others, or someone's like, we need this missing piece, and you're able to connect those pieces? Is that something that you guys are doing?
Always. I don't think that's a official business. That's not like a source of revenue for the nonprofit or anything like that. But it's something we do because we care, right? Like we want dope people to work with dope people. We want dope ideas to have amazing individuals behind them. And so when we see a correlation between two organizations, we actively try to put those together. Because the issue is not which organization is better run or bigger or whatever. The issue, what we're looking to is solve problems and solve these issues. We don't really care who does them as long as they do it the right way. No,
that's great. That makes a lot of sense. And I had like 5 questions at once pop in my head here. We mentioned before the Fox Theater Institute, and you mentioned prior to to going live that you did that you all did something with them. Not so much what you did with them, but what is it that you do for organizations like that? Like, because you mentioned, this is when you had in-person opportunities.
Oh, those were the days.
They'll be back.
They'll be back. We do generally enjoy working with organizations like the Fox Theater Institute, for instance. They're a very well-run organization who was just looking for what's next, right? And a lot of the time, different groups will come to CCI to want to take advantage of the workshops and the trainings and the programs that we've put together specifically for civic organizations to better understand how they can tell stories. So occasionally, we've pulled them off the table this year for obvious reasons, but I believe next year you'll start to see more public workshops around storytelling, around different aspects of pitches and things like that, in a way just to get people more involved and to better understand how they can tell their stories. And so we'll offer those to different organizations as needed, but it's we only want to, generally speaking, we try to make sure we're working with civic organizations or organizations that are solving problems. And the Fox Theater Institute is definitely one of them. They might not be solely focused on Atlanta, but they're one that's out there doing the work in a right way, and we're actively trying to figure out how to even do that better. So we love those guys.
You got to make it pretty, Atlanta. Wow. I just can't. It seems to me that you have an endless list of things that you guys are working on and people you're working with. It's just how are you managing all that, and what is your senior director of operations? What does that entail?
The large part of my job is, the compliance, all the aspects to keep, the business running, right? But it's very project based, right? Like, so as an operations team at CCI, we're tasked with making sure that all the systems in place are working, with only 10 people and trying to convene this many people. Like, for instance, in addition to this fellowship program that I spoke about, and then in addition to the philanthropy work that we're doing, we're also launching a citywide survey starting on Monday, where we're going to be surveying people about how they engage with their neighborhood planning units in Atlanta. We're in the second year of a 30-year program called the NPU Initiative, where we're actively working with NPU leaders and different people in the Atlanta community to try to understand how the NPU system works currently, and then try to understand maybe some ways to make it better moving forward. So we're in the survey stage of that. This summer, we were supposed to be knocking on doors and canvassing, holding pop-up events, educational touch points about the NPU. Well, clearly we're not doing that now, so we're launching the survey instead. So there's a lot of workings behind that. Like, there's always something that we've got to figure out, and we've got to figure it out fast, because we've got very lofty goals. And if we're not working, we're not supporting people, and we're not doing the job. So you'll never see us twiddling our thumbs, my friend.
No. I mean, I never have seen you do that.
I
Whatever you're
that.
involved with, you're mover and shaker. What about, have you had anything in line with the Beltline, and that sort of, so
not really.
No?
No, I mean, again, we're not service providers, so I want to make that super clear.
Yeah.
So, like, any sort of issue, when it gets into issue-based things, like, I think if you ever hear our name associated with anything around the Beltline, it's usually about, we want more neighborhood involvement in the way that they're communicating X, Y, and Z, right? We did a lot of work with the downtown Atlanta, or adjacent to downtown Atlanta, with the underground project, that crazy project that's still happening, right? Because we didn't believe that project was engaging with the community the way that they needed to. So, if you ever see us, interacting on that level, it's usually about getting engagement and getting neighborhoods involved more. But we usually don't we try not to get in the weeds a lot with that kind of thing. Now, we will support 20 organizations who are trying to make the Beltline better all day long. We just don't have an organization.
Oh, that makes sense. Wow. I mean, how do you keep track of all your organizations that you're working with?
Ayana, she works for me. She's amazing.
Okay.
No, we it's it's relational, man. How do you keep track with all the people you've got one of the largest networks of anybody that I know, quite frankly. And it's true. And so, how do you do that? Well, you genuinely give a shit, right? You genuinely want to touch, you want to keep in contact with these people. It's not fake. It's not about, like, I need to keep up this, I got to pull in my KPIs for my report. No, it's like, we actually want these people to succeed. I think part of the kind of the magic and the sauce behind what we do at CCI is that we're working with amazing human beings. I mean, I'm talking like amazing human beings, people that would lay their life down for the problem that they're trying to solve. And if that doesn't motivate you, then you're in the wrong biz. And so you've got, so it's almost out of necessity. Like, we create processes to try to keep up, because we never want, at CCI, especially as we continue to build out our community and to continue, and as things continue to burn around us, we have to be a support system for these leaders. If we're not a support system for these leaders, we shouldn't be open. And so that it's just constantly trying to be better, man. Trying to be better at all times.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to share about what you've got coming up, or anything else about CCI that?
Shout out to my team. They're all in meetings right now, so I know they're not watching this right now.
And they've heard enough of you. I'm sure they're not going to watch it.
Yeah, they're pretty sick of me. I'll just say that, I will implore everybody listening or watching or transcribing or however you intake your content these days to take a look at what we're doing with our fellowship program, and then also take a look at what we're doing with our philanthropy work. And if you think you have an idea that could be a good fit, just apply. We love for you to engage with the work that we do, and we're actively working on more avenues to get, generally anybody who wants to engage. But if you see something that's, pardon my French, if you see something that's fucked up and you got a way to fix it, like, we want to hear from you. And so, yeah, just please come and visit us there.
And one other quick thing is, as you saw in the intro video, and you mentioned, you've got this beautiful space, but is not being used right now. But
Right.
when in person is a thing again, can you talk a little bit about where you guys are located and the beauty of that?
Sure. Yeah. So kind of the heart of CCI is the M Rich building in South Downtown Atlanta. We're the old Rich's building, 115 MLK. And is South Downtown is just a fantastic dichotomy of everything that is Atlanta. I mean, we put roots down in downtown and are refusing to leave because it's such a part of our story. The way that neighborhood is so rapidly changing, along with, I mean, who knows what it's going to look like post COVID, whatever post COVID means. It's so interesting, just that the fact that we live in a city with this many people, and quite frankly, nobody lives downtown, and nobody really goes downtown unless they're going to school or they got a court case,
Or they're going to the Tabernacle for a concert,
Right, exactly. So we want to be part of. We actively are trying to be part of the story of downtown, and it's not about revitalization or anything. It's about building downtown back up. Like it's about.
And there's a big chance for that. I mean, if I drove down past downtown towards the old stadium, and that whole area, it's like what is going on over there? There's a whole new life happening in that whole area from downtown to the prison, which, by the way, yes, there is a federal prison right there.
Yes, but it's gotta look like it. The problem is that there's a lot happening, right? But is that the community that was there before? Is that really the way we want Atlanta to be? Because if we're not careful, man, downtown Atlanta, which is the last, it's the last real estate left here. Let's be honest, that's worth anything. You'll be living in a big Whole Foods, and it'll be just so corporate. And that we do have an opportunity to play a role, all of us, not just CCI, not just Matt, not just Seth, but all of us have an opportunity to have a say in the way that the way downtown is developed. Because there's I mean, everybody is, trying to do this and that for the Gulch, and everybody's, it's, if it doesn't feel like Atlanta, it's never going to succeed.
Well, that's the thing. So when you look at like Decatur, one of the things I love about Decatur is that you don't, I mean, other than in Toco Hills, you really don't see that many chain restaurants. It's mostly independent and whatnot. And so that's why I kind of brought up the Beltline thing, is because not only with the Beltline and building businesses around the Beltline that are local infused and like all of that, but also like property and how that the Beltline was ripping through these neighborhoods that, rather than just, well, let's call it what it is. Like, it was supposed to keep it and maintain rent and all this, and then it started to go in the opposite direction, where these people are getting evicted out of their places that they've lived generations, and then they're what property was $400 a month rent is now $4,000. I mean, it's just insane, and so the intention there kind of went in a weird place. So I kind of hear what you're saying on this. I guess that's gonna be South Downtown. And that's this is where CII comes into play.
Yeah, for the last thing we need is another freaking overblown sidewalk that brings everybody's real estate prices up. Like, I just don't, that concept. And let's be frank, the Beltline was put there by very well-intentioned people and very, very smart people.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Who are amazing. And I don't think any of those people are there. Now, I will say, the new leadership in place seems to have the right things in mind, but don't take my word for that, right? Like, go figure it out for yourself. Go look into what they're doing. I'd be lying to you if I was well versed on this subject, besides just what I see as an Atlantan, and what I'd like to see. And what I'd like to see is more locally owned shops, more of inclusion of the neighborhood that this shit is replacing, and a real thought into the history and the substance of what we're putting there. So no, we're just not plopping targets on top of things. We're actually holding reverence to the history of that land and those people, and not just displacing those people.
Yeah.
It's a real shame, and it's not the Atlanta I want to grow old in.
No, well, the core of Atlanta, if anyone's ever been here, you've been to a neighborhood festival from Kirkwood to Grant Park to whatever. I mean, each neighborhood, big and small, has a real history and spirit to them. And that's one of the really unique things. It's not just unique about Atlanta. I'm sure Chicago has, lots of cities have it, but we have it I think, an abundance of it. I mean, you get away from the cookie cutter, and I mean, no offense, Roswell or Alpharetta, but, you know, something about art. You go downtown, you start spreading out from downtown. There's a lot of uniqueness into the neighborhoods, and that's a rich history that should last. So the fact that you all are contributing to that, and folks, you can, like he mentioned, with the project that you can apply for, or apply your project for over at civicatlanta.org. Do it. Become a part of the change. So I love it.
Wait, everybody, please vote, for God's sake, and do it early. Come on.
I think there's voting today in my neighborhood.
Yeah,
for
there is a special election day. That is correct. Yeah.
So maybe I'll go do that and put a mask on. Thanks for the reminder. So thank you so much for your time. Before we close, I always ask my guests, as the Fox Theater recommended you, is there an organization you would recommend to have on a future Coffee Connections?
Absolutely. I would love for you to talk to Philip Ollier from Next Generation Men and Women. You can find information about them on nextgenatl.org. They're a fantastic organization here in Atlanta who are working with youth. And Phil is just an inspiring human being who I love having conversations with, whether it be about the fucked up world we live in or whether it be about LeBron James. Just a good dude. So I'd love to hear what you guys could chop it up about.
I would love that. So I'll appreciate that introduction after. And I want to remind everyone coming up, October is coming up. We've got, we're stacked for the Coffee Connections is rolling. We start off this Thursday with the Jewish Women's Fund of Atlanta. Then we talk to the Georgia Center for Child Advocacy, another organization called I Care Atlanta, the Atlanta Jewish Music Festival. We'll be talking with Goodwill and several more. So I'm really excited about the calendar coming up. Fall is here. The rain is falling. Everyone stay safe. Get a cup of coffee. It's National Coffee Day here. Matt, thank you so much for your time. And we'll see everyone again.
Thanks.